Howdy, welcome to the show. Today we are going to re-record a show because we are the kings of technology and totally messed up a recording that was actually a really cool show. So we're going to try it again. So Bobby, you remember the social media show we did where you were like asking me who are you following? Like it was just kind of a fun. I want to do that again, and I think I have better answers this time. But
unfortunately, I forgot all of mine. I had answers the first time, and now I'm like, I don't remember who I said. So I pull up other people now.
Well, do you remember like the premise of that, or do you want?
I think the premise wasn't the premise just like who are people that you kind of follow in the digital marketing space? Isn't that what it was? Or people that are
I think it was just like following on social media. Like who are you consuming?
Yeah. No, I've got pulled up a couple. I've got a few.
Okay, cool.
Most all on Twitter. Right?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. Is that the main place that you're like consuming content?
Yeah, I don't know the last time I opened up Instagram. I haven't been looking at Facebook other than like, our community and stuff like that.
I don't look at Facebook at all.
I've been looking at Twitter a ton. I don't know why I've been looking at Twitter a ton, but I have been. I don't know. I've been into Twitter lately, but I don't actually. Part of me is like not wanting to be into Twitter as much as I am. I was like, I think I need to like get rid of this on my phone because like I have found myself getting sucked into it a little bit, and I've realized I haven't done a good job curating my Twitter, and so like I have a lot of, especially since Elon took over, I feel like a lot of my feed has changed, and I'm trying to go back and actually like curate it to stuff that's useful and business stuff and personal finance stuff. So I'm getting back there, but in the process, I've found new people to follow.
Well, I'll share just like a couple of like kind of how I consume content for people that are interested, because I think it might be useful. So I've actually started consuming more since I started creating content because I had gotten to like a zero consumption place almost. And because it was just like distracting. But then when I started creating content, I realized that you have to get new ideas and you have to hear other people talk, not so you can like take their ideas, but because they say something that makes your mind go, that like knocks a screw loose and takes you down like a rabbit hole. So I've been like very intentional about what I consume. And even though the main place that I'm creating content right now is on TikTok, it's probably where I consume the least. I try to pay attention and curate that to see kind of like what is trending and what's working now and that kind of stuff. But I don't do a ton of consumption on there because I'm not sure how much to trust some of it. I think it's kind of the Wild West, and I think the barrier to entry on TikTok is pretty low. But the nice thing about that, if you're a creator and you really know your stuff, is that it's very easy to stand out and provide a lot more depth and be unique there compared to somewhere like Twitter that's more established. So not really consuming as much there. YouTube, by far, my biggest consumption platform. I treat it like a podcast. I listen to videos and I listen to podcast clips. Like I basically will scroll through YouTube, save to my watch later, and I have that if I'm cooking, whatever. So that's kind of my biggest area. And then Twitter, I've gotten into Twitter a lot too. I like the ability to sort people into lists. And now you can bookmark tweets and you can categorize them. And so I'm using Twitter more and more for ideas and just because I think it's interesting. I like reading, stuff, and sometimes like an educational type thing is like if they've taken the time to write it and be concise, it's usually more powerful. Whereas like if you really want to go deep on an issue, maybe YouTube is better. But I like that part of it. So that's kind of like I'm finding myself reading these curated lists on Twitter kind of in the evening. And I'm listening to YouTube when I'm driving, when I'm cooking, when I'm working on the property, stuff like that. So, and I'm not on Facebook at all. And honestly, Instagram, there's a couple of coaches that are old school that I might look at their posts, but mainly just like looking at memes people send me. Like that's really all Instagram has turned into. But what's that like for you? I mean, are you using anything?
Man, I look at Twitter, but I never use the the social media platforms to their full functionality. Like I know that you can do lists and I know you can do all that stuff. And I haven't been doing that. I'm not really sure why. I think it's like I don't actually like put time into, I don't know. I don't really put time into social media, like trying to figure out how to do it the right way, like as far as like consuming it. But I still do find myself scrolling. I think I actually just like kind of habitually do what a lot of people do. And I just like grab my phone and I'll look at Twitter while I'm like sitting on the couch or something. But I actually find that like I am most interested in the things that I disagree with. And so I don't know. I just like keep, I kind of like, I'll scroll through and I see all these things that I disagree with. And I like internally start getting annoyed. And then I'm like, okay, I got to put this phone down because I'm just getting annoyed because I don't like to actually tweet. So I'm not going to tweet back at them, but I just like, that's stupid. I don't like that. Or, I don't believe that or whatever. I do more of that than like finding inspirational content for myself, which is really interesting to me. Anyway.
Man, that's why I used to not like Twitter, because I would go on there and I felt like it was like all these young bro marketers that were, remember when Chris went on a tear and he was like using all of the same like guru quotes, like, there's a lesson in that, like that was a big thing. They'd post something, say there's a lesson in that. Like, and I would get so frustrated between that and like the politics. I would like get angry. And so I was like, Twitter's not a safe place for me. And then it started to change. And when you started to have the lists and you started to have, and they started doing the tweet threads, I was like, whoa, this is becoming more valuable. People are putting higher quality content in there. It's almost like mini blogs. And that's when I started to get interested in it again. And I specifically remember we're getting ready for coming up, in July, I'm going on this 4th of July trip. And last year, I remember kind of rediscovering Twitter and reading a lot and starting to create some of those lists. But you should definitely check it out, because one of the nice things about the lists is you can put people into categories. So like, do you want to have politics, sports, finance, business, like whatever, you can kind of categorize them to look at what you want and have it be clean, but there's no ads in lists. So if you look at your For You page or your following page, there are ads and there are tweet suggestions. And I don't care. I don't want to be suggested random people, especially when every other suggestion is like an AI guru, which I don't want to see. So I think you would like the lists. I think it'd be a better user experience for you.
I'm sure it's probably better than me just going in there and like getting annoyed by people or just not believing. I'm so scared. I don't know. As I get older, I'm like so skeptical of everything. And that's probably normal. But like I've been in the online industry now for eight years, something like that, 7, 8 years. And I used to believe everything and be really inspired by everything. Like, oh, this is so great, man. That story is so cool. Now, like when I see a story, like one of the people I was going to bring up, well, there's actually 2, Cody Sanchez.
Okay, I know who that is.
Yeah. She buys boring businesses. And then you've got Alex Hormozi.
She's the one that does she bought the laundromat. That's her big things, the laundromats.
Yeah. So it's like her and Alex Hormozi are very similar. Like I feel like they're kind of like similar business concept type. I don't know, not similar business concepts, but they're acquiring companies and they're talking about all this stuff. But at the same time, I don't believe anything they say. And I don't think that that's fair to them. But I look at the stuff that they're tweeting and they're saying, and I'm like, I think half of this is bullshit. Like I just something in my the numbers, spidey senses and stuff. I'm just like, okay, Cody, this could totally be true. I to be fair, like this might 1000% be true, but it's like I bought 75 businesses doing $100 million in revenue, and I'm like, okay, operationally, like because I have employees now, and like we're starting to put together a real team structure and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, buying 75 different businesses. Like, what does that mean to run 75 businesses? And like, does that mean that she bought them outright? And I'm sure she talks about this stuff, but like, I'm just like the claim of like, I bought 75 businesses and now we're doing 100 million in revenue. Like, is that 100 million top line? Is that 100? Like, what is that? Or is that 100 million projected? Like nobody talks about that stuff. So then I sit there and I go like, I don't know if I believe this, because they're leaving out the stuff that like a business owner would talk about. So like, that's where I go, but I don't think that that's fair, because it probably is legit. They're just marketing themselves. So that's what I get. I scroll through Twitter and find stuff like that, and then I get annoyed by it and I don't tweet anything.
Well, and it's also hard because I see this like with TikTok content, and it's like, if you start to get into the real stuff, like if you get too in depth, crickets.
Yeah. Right? Well, yeah, I know that's tough. Yeah.
And so it's this like balance of the stuff that's going to get you eyeballs and it's going to give you growth, and then creating that depth. So that's hard, and I don't, that's something I'm always trying to navigate. Like, what is that? Like, what's, no, but that's interesting. Yeah. I take a lot of things with a grain of salt. I think a big thing when I think about now, when I am thinking about who I'm consuming, is are they living the life I want, or are they living an aspect of the life I want? I really do like to categorize people. And so if I can have somebody that's like, the person that I'm going to listen to for business or, faith or family, like those are not always the same people.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important thing. But yeah, you have to wade through all that nonsense. It's funny you mentioned Alex, like I've got his book, like just happened to be sitting here on my desk.
Right.
And like, that's a fantastic book.
Oh, there's no doubt the guy's really, really smart.
Yeah. Like, fantastic book. And some of his stuff, like I watched a YouTube video of his the other day, was incredible, but I don't like most of his tweets.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I think what it is. Like everybody has, I think it's part of that where it's like they've got to do the tweets for engagement. You're trying to grow the audience, and you have to say things like you have to say things that are not outlandish, but you have to make stretch claims. Not have to, but it seems like you have to make stretch claims to be able to like get real traction. But like with somebody like Alex and his wife, it's like you hear them talk about things and they're really smart, but like you never see. Like I want to see it. Like these businesses that you own, and you're telling everybody that you're doing, $100 million or whatever, like, okay, show me the businesses. Like, I want to see what those look like. That's what I'm interested in. And they never really seem, at least on the surface, they never seem to show it unless you buy something, I guess. Maybe, I don't even know what they sell. He says he has nothing to sell you, but I think that he's just trying to acquire companies. But then it's
I think his thing is like, I have nothing to sell you. I'm going to give you all the information to help you get to 3 million. And then at that point, if you're interested in working with us, that's when.
But then that's what I want to know. What I really want to know, just as a business owner, is like, okay, are you buying a minority stake in a company and then claiming that all of the revenue is yours, or are you buying majority stakes? Or are you buying them outright? Like when it comes to like the big number income claims, I'm like, oh, there's so much just like nonsense that you can do with numbers like that. Especially when you're talking about acquisitions, like, okay, you own 10% of $1 million company. And so are you saying that you do $1 million and you run that company for $1 million a year?
Right.
So I don't know. That's the stuff. What I wish they would share, and maybe they do somewhere. And maybe I just haven't done a good enough job of like really digging in, trying to follow. What I wish these like guru people would share is like, okay, cool. Like operationally, how do you acquire, like the business owner, wants to know that, like, how do you acquire a company like that? And then like inject your operations into what they're doing. Like, I want to see that. I want to see what that looks like, because it's really interesting to me. But I don't, it's like the stretch claims of like, we're doing 100 million a year and we own 5 companies. It's like, okay, well, like a supplement company and like what does that actually mean?
Sure.
How much money do you actually get?
It's similar to like the Gary V concept of, I'm talking about all the big trending, social media stuff, showing you that I know how to use social media. I know how to grow an audience. Like I know how to have authority. I've made money before. And then like, that's the social proof to get the real clients. Like Gary V's audience is not the people consuming, like his customers aren't the people consuming the social media. It's then Pepsi goes, oh, he knows how to get eyeballs, I'm going to go hire him. And it's kind of the same with Alex. And, it's really interesting. I went a couple months ago, I went to a conference in Houston. It was a lot of mindset people, but there was some business stuff too. I went to go visit Brian Grasso, go meet him in person for the first time. And one of the speakers was somebody named Martha Creaky. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's like Krejci, I think. Mm-hmm. You can look her up on Instagram if anybody's interested. Really interesting account or person, and she's basically built her entire business around affiliate marketing and blogging, social media, and that kind of stuff. And I think she teaches people about affiliate marketing. But one of the things that really stood out to me from her speaking was that you have to be teaching the basic 101 level stuff to even be in the conversation. And so when you're coming up with your social media strategy and you're putting content out there, you have to be talking about that beginner level stuff, even if you want to work with the more advanced people, because you need the reach. And I think this is a lesson that we kind of learned, last year with our Course Growth Accelerator program, is that, we have some amazing clients that have this business that are trying to scale. But we were reaching so many people that were just like, how do I start? How do I create a course? And we were trying to help people market and scale.
Yeah.
And you have to go and talk about the creation and what tool do you host on and all of the beginner stuff to get out there. But that's how you get the attention of like, well, as it's going to that more advanced person is in that category. And so I do wonder, with that, like how much of it is, yeah, maybe he's not talking about like, how do I acquire, how do you do this, that, and the other, but that's how you reach those people. That's what I think about. So it's tough, man, because I totally understand what you're saying, where you're coming from. I guess I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit.
I don't mind.
And I think it's like, and I don't know the answer, but I think like, I get it from a marketing perspective, but like, that's the stuff I want to know too, but I'm more interested in the advanced stuff like you are. And that's not most people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just interesting to me. I think it's just because I'm naturally becoming skeptical of like social media. Because I'm just the questions that go through my mind are like, okay, well, if you're so successful and you're doing $100 million a year and who knows what that means? Like, why are you tweeting? Like, why aren't you just growing the operations of your company and just like expanding that instead of like trying to do something else? You know what I mean? Like, it's like the energy where they're spending their energy is interesting to me. But,
well, because he's not the operational guy.
Sure.
So maybe, but yeah,
I don't know. Question. That's the thing. I just don't. But it's not just them. Like, because I think that at some level they're probably very legit. I question some of the claims and everything, and like how the numbers are presented. But like, I don't know. I've just seen a lot. There's just a lot of it on Twitter though, that I'm just like, man, there's a lot of people that are really like selling themselves, but they're also saying they've got these huge businesses. And I'm like, the amount of energy. I've got like 4 employees now, and then we have Laptop Empires too. I'm like, the amount of energy that it takes to run that, it's like, maybe there's just something wrong with me, but I'm like, I don't know if I can like build a bunch of audience and do all of the infrastructure and do all the people management and all those different things. But maybe they've just scaled to a point where it doesn't matter and they got bored. But I don't know. It's just like I said, I'm very skeptical of these things, but I also think there's probably truth to it. And I haven't done a lot of like effort into like really digging. But I do like people like Patrick Bet David. I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
Because he took, I mean, he's a legitimate business. Like, he just got a minority share in the Yankees. Like, this is a guy that's like built.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. He just announced that. And I feel like he talks about more legitimate business stuff. And it's like, he's also doing content and he's also doing those things, but it doesn't seem like he's trying to like sell anything. It seems like he's just trying to like, he seems like he does the podcast stuff and does the audience stuff because he genuinely just really likes it and wants to teach people. That's the vibe I get from him. I don't get the like scammy vibe.
There's an interview he did and he talked about why he started doing it. I'm trying to think of the comedian. And they just like, they have like a bunch of chairs and it's usually like him. And then there's the person being interviewed. And then there's like a couple of people over here and like one more over here. I can't think of his name. He's got a mustache.
I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name.
Yeah. I can't think off the top of my head, but anyway, he was interviewing, I was watching them and he was asking about that. He's like, look, I built up all this stuff in the real estate, and then he was doing the YouTube thing and it wasn't doing much. And he basically like, he started off about the business and it was generating business, and he kept going a step further and a step further. And he didn't intend to get into talking about politics and current events and the economy and all those kind of things. But it just got to a point where he'd gotten so big and those things were there. And he was like, I think I can bring a different perspective. And yeah, he's making money in all those ways. He's making money from his businesses. He's making money from his show. I think it's one of the things that was really interesting from that. He talked about, he did not start talking about politics and current events until he exited his business. Yeah. And he was like, it would have harmed my company and the ability to get investors and to get an exit if I'd been talking about that stuff then, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. Because if I was doing that, then it's easy for somebody to go, well, we wanted to buy the business, but he said this. So yeah, he's an interesting guy. And that was, if I can find it, I'll send it to you, because he actually talked about that. And I thought it was really fascinating. And see, I love seeing that kind of stuff.
but that's what like because he sells courses and he's got subscription stuff and all that stuff that he sells. I just don't feel like he doesn't come across as like the guru type to me. It's like he comes across as like a guy that like knows a lot of stuff, has built legitimate businesses, and is just like a smart, I don't know, there's something different about the way that he approaches content versus the way that like an Alex Hormozy or somebody else approaches it, where like you're like scam meter just like starts going off with them because of the claims that they're making. It's like they don't really seem to share much of the behind the scenes stuff or talk about the real stuff that happened. But I don't know. That's just my
I think about there are certain people, just because something I saw the other day. I saw a video of Jesse Itzler. So he owns an NBA team, or he's at least the Phoenix team, right? He's at least a partial owner, and he's done a lot of other stuff. Came up through the music industry. His wife is the founder of Spanx. I mean, they're like like a power couple.
Here,
one second.
Crushing.
Did you make it all by yourself? Thank you. You can include this. My son, who went to cooking camp recently, he just made me an omelet.
That's so cool.
I didn't ask for, but that's
but you got it though, awesome. Man. And the presentation there is like,
yeah.
Did he get you some wine too? What's in that?
I feel bad because I was like, it's a wine glass, but it's like a Yeti style. It's water.
He's like, Dad, I made you this beautiful thing. You're like, get out of here. I'm recording.
I know. I feel bad.
No, I don't feel bad.
I feel bad. But yeah, it's so cool. He went in his second week of summer. He did a cooking camp in town. We have this place called Art of the Meal, and you can go do like a date night cooking class kind of thing. And they did a 1 week long cooking camp for kids. And so he went every day for a week. And then on the last day, you were able to bring your parents or whatever and cook a meal, but he would bring home food every day.
Yeah.
He loved it. It was awesome. So this is great. Got some mushrooms, some ham. So kind of going back to what we were talking about, something that I think is interesting is there's, especially with Twitter, there is like a culture, and I feel like you have this on every platform, but it seems more established in Twitter than in other places. And so there's this culture of how you grow on Twitter and how you position yourself as an authority on Twitter. And it's a particular type of tweet and pattern and doing threads and how you talk. And there's almost a feeling of you have to do it this way to grow and to be successful and to be part of the circle and to get the retweets and to have those kind of things. And I that's been something that's always turned me off to Twitter, but I think it does give creators on Twitter a more guru vibe than those same creators could have recording on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about, like you mentioned, Patrick Bet-David, like his YouTube channel is essentially a combination of educational videos and a podcast. And so it's more of just like, hey, let me share with you what I learned. And I think that's like a very different vibe. And I think that's interesting because I deal with that all the time. Like you want to do the things that'll help you grow so you can reach more people and you can make money doing that thing and all that. But at the same time, you want who you are to come through. And I think podcasts are probably the best way to do that, but they're harder to grow.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it too.
I think so. That's what I've kind of, I don't know. I've kind of struggled with. I mean, I've struggled for the last couple of years with content creation. Mostly because I just don't, it's like, I don't feel like I have the energy for it, and I don't have the want to do it anymore. I think that's actually the biggest problem. Like I'm sure it would be super beneficial if I was like just cranking out content like I used to. But I feel like the more that I've dove into like just like building a scalable type of company, like the more I'm like, God, I don't want to do social media at all. So I'm kind of hoping that I get back to a point like if I can like maybe hire the right people and get the right people in right seats, kind of hoping I can get back to maybe caring about that again. Cause I think it would be good. And I feel like I know a lot more about business now than I used to. So I feel like it would be good for me to create content around that kind of stuff. And I even have like a personal brand Like I actually finally was able to buy the website associated to my name. Some other guy in like Tennessee owned it, like a band director in Tennessee
Nice.
owned it for years. And
Go
somebody was like,
figure, another band director.
isn't that weird?
Who would
Yeah.
have thought?
Yeah. Somebody, same name, owned it. And I could not get it. I tried for so many years. And then I finally got it a couple, like two months ago. And then now I'm like, okay, well, what am I ever going to do anything with that? Like, and my thought is like, I almost want to just hire somebody to like help me make the personal brand. Like, just tell me what to say, you know, but I don't know. I don't have the energy for it right now, or I don't have the desire for it. So it's like,
But
I'm saying that these people are doing this in weird ways or like that feel scammy, but like at the same time, like I probably should be putting myself out there and creating more of a personal brand. I don't want to, you know.
no, it's fair enough, man. I think it was one of those things where I looked back and was like, I've been doing this for so long and I haven't put the time into that at all. And when Katie started staying home, I was like, I have more time to do this than I used to. And so it just made sense. And I was like, well, who cares how quickly I grow? Like
Right.
start it now and I'll be glad that I did in 2 to 3 years. The biggest problem, you know, to me is the what do you talk about? Especially when, you know, like I had a conversation with a guy. I was talking to somebody yesterday and I was telling him about how like you and I, when we started working together, it was like taking skills from 2 different worlds and putting them together. And we talked about how great the blogging community was at building traffic and building lists and building an audience. And then, you know, with the internet marketing world, how it was like they relied on paid traffic and the constant social media posting. They weren't good at actually building a real audience or building a list, but they were really good at squeezing every single drop of juice out of it. When you combine those two things, it's like so much more powerful. But the flip side of that is like, as long as we've been doing it and with us mixing all these things together, like you and I both know a lot about a lot, you know, wow,
Right.
that was so that's it's hard to narrow down. Like, what do you want to talk about? And you need to get it narrowed down a little bit to grow. So, you know, that to me has been the biggest challenge, is that like, what do I want to be when I grow up? You know, like, what do I want to, you know, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to talk about? And kind of defining that. So, yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm getting clarity around it, you know, but like that's been the biggest challenge. And when I get to where I don't feel like posting, it's because I'm unsure about what direction to go.
Yeah.
Whereas when I feel like I have some clarity, it's just like easy. It comes so easy. So
yeah,
you know, you've got a lot going on and you're going to be successful even without it right now. So, and when you do launch your personal brand, you have an established brand of people that will help you jumpstart that. So I think you'll be fine either way. I'm curious. This is a question that I was thinking of. I don't think we're going to get to the who we're following stuff. We can do that as another episode. So I want to kind of end with this question. Something I was thinking about as you were talking is like, what's the ideal show or account or thing to follow to you? And we'll keep it in like, you know, I don't know, maybe business space or not. Like, what does that look like for you? And I actually know, because it's something that like I would love to do one day, but I haven't figured out how to do it. So, I mean, you can think about it.
You go first, because I'm not, you go first so I can think about it.
I love sports radio. I love talk radio. That's, you mentioned, you know, Bet David, like I like his show. Not that I'm not interested in all of the topics that he talks about, but I like how he kind of has this talk show vibe. And I like that more than the interview style podcast. I'm never been a huge fan of the interview style podcast.
Yeah.
But I would watch it if someone created it, but I don't think it's out there. And so I would love to one day create what Pat McAfee has done, but for business, right? Like, or just, and there's a lot of radio shows that are like that, talk shows in the morning, sports radio, whatever. But I like what Pat McAfee has done in particular, where it's him and then there's these people that are on the team, like his crew, and they're talking about topics they're interested in. They're asking each other questions. They're talking about current events. And then they're bringing people in for segments and doing that. And I love, the reason that I haven't tried to do this yet is because you're making the commitment to doing this every day. To me, I'm thinking about it and I'm like, this would be, if I can figure it out, this is something I would do when Paige goes to school.
Right.
When I know that I can drop the kids off at school and do that every day. But I love the idea of having like a daily show, with people, and then I can bring you on, I can bring Chris on, I can bring in whoever, and you can do the interviews, and it can be a longer interview, or it can be a segment. But also having the personalities in the room so it can be fun. Like I think, when you and I, when we have a team meeting, like we did the other day, and we've got everybody in there, Hudson's in there and Robert's in there and Alicia's in there, and we're just like dying laughing, like I want to bring that element, but in the online business world. To me, that would be the ideal show. And I think that if I could figure that out and find the people and like figure out a way to do it, I'm like, that's something that I could do my whole life. And if I just made enough money to pay the bills, like I would just be super happy doing that. That's like the closest I've come to like an idea of like a dream job, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know, who would those people be? And I need to pay better attention to the what do you want to call it? Not the trends, but like this current events and things like that.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you kind of like, you had your dream show and kind of like dream job wrapped up into one thing, which is really interesting. I don't know if I have that, because honestly, like my dream, like I really enjoyed, like as as difficult and stressful as it is sometimes, I really enjoy like growing teams, and like I'm really enjoying like growing a larger company, and something about that. I'm sure that there's like a point of no return where like your company gets too big to where it's like, oh, I've created this monster and now it's like eating me alive. But I actually really like that. And like when I see like Marco, we had him on the show, he tweets a lot about like, he's kind of anti that. He's like, lifestyle business and all that kind of stuff. 100%. And I see that stuff and I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in that at all. Like, because I've lived that life, and it's the one
person business is like, that is the culture on Twitter.
It is. And it's interesting. And maybe my perspective is a little different, not than yours, but like than a lot of people, just because like I lived that life. Like I was a blogger, I was making $100,000 a year, and I was working in coffee shops, and it was great for like 2 years, and then it just becomes so like lonely and monotonous. I was actually talking to the team about this the other day. It's like online work is awesome, but like all of us kind of have an itch to like have a physical location too, because of the people thing. And so it's like when people are really out there like heavily promoting like, this is the way, like solo business, solopreneur, one person business, like this is the best lifestyle and all that. It's like it could be for some people, but it's not as great. Like nothing is as great as it seems. Like it's always a balance. And so anyway, but I don't have anything that like where I just want to do like content. But if I did do something, I really want to do like a long form interview style. Kind of like, honestly, like I love what Joe Rogan does, but like an hour less, or like I would like to keep it to an hour. But I really want to just bring on like my personal finance friends that I've known throughout the years, and like business people, and not even like really like ask them a lot of questions. I just kind of want to like talk to them and record it and just, I don't know, ask for advice and stuff. Like I've had so many like really interesting conversations. Like my favorite thing to do is like just ask people for like their advice, that are successful people. Like there was a guy that I played golf with in Arizona on the last golf trip I went on. And this dude, he looked like, well, one, he was smoking weed, like, which just doesn't happen very often on a golf course. But like we got to like the third hole, and this dude was like, he pulled out weed, he was smoking. He's like, yeah, this is why I moved to Arizona, which I didn't even know it was legal there. And this guy was, you would never have thought that this was like a successful guy. But then he starts talking and he's like, he owns like millions and millions and millions of dollars of farmland, like farm real estate. And he was telling me about like he bought thousands and thousands of acres back when it was like extremely cheap in Idaho. And now like the price multiplied by some insane number. So he just is like crazy wealthy. And he plays golf every day and he's just retired. And I was like, I just really loved talking to him and just asking. I was like, so what should I do? And he's like, you need to take risk. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you have to push yourself. If you really want to be like very successful, you have to really push yourself and take way more risk than you're comfortable with. And not like financial risk, but just that thing that you think is really scary. Like he's like, you have to do that, because he's like, you'll regret it for the rest of your life if you don't.
Yeah.
And then he was like, the second thing, diversify, it's just like standard advice, but like, it was so powerful. Like just hearing his story and the way that he did it, and then him telling me that, like, I want to talk to people like that and just record those conversations and like, just be like the curious student, or, whatever that saying is.
Yeah.
I just want to do that.
Curious student.
But like for an hour, like I don't want to do 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think to me, like the thing with the interview stuff is the research and the scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, which you would have it with what I'm talking about too, right?
Yeah.
But you have the people and stuff. And that goes to like what you said too about the one person business. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. With not having somebody that you could delegate some tasks to, and at least one person.
Yeah.
Which, no, that's interesting, man. It's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I just want to talk. I just like talking to people. I like talking to people, and I really like talking to people that are older than me too. And just like hearing about life, it's just something I've always been interested in. And I'd almost rather talk to like totally, like, I don't even want to talk to like internet business owners that like have reach and all that kind of stuff to grow it. Like I literally just want, like my friend that I play golf with, like he owns this like huge medical equipment leasing company, and same thing. You'd never really know that he was wealthy. But I would want to interview like him, because it's like he built a business from scratch in a very interesting way with like investors, and like then buying his investors out and then all this stuff. It's like, that's the kind of stuff I really want to talk about. Like the guts of it. Like, how do you actually grow a huge, $100 million a year kind of business? Not like the, hey, we do this by our core stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally understand. I still want to talk. I want to do the social media. That was a cool episode that we did. We'll save it for another day. That can be the next one. So, we totally just pulled the rug out from underneath y'all. But if you're watching, you've gotten this far, next time, and we'll remember, because that's a good one. But that's a fun, and it'll give you some time to think about it. Because you kind of put me on the spot the first time we did it, and I kind of put you on the spot with it today. So. Anyway, thank you all, everybody, for watching this. We appreciate it. Share it with your friends, follow wherever, subscribe, watch our clips on YouTube. We'll see you next week.